Hello everybody, welcome to a World of Warship Blitz video. The number 5 on there is because, as you can probably tell from the title, this video is the top 5 winningest cruisers. Now, this is number 5, which is the HMS Belfast. It may be a surprise that that's only number 5, given how powerful it is, and it has a reputation of being quite overpowered. I do tend to take risks with it, so it sneaks in at number 5. The Belfast is a very good cruiser, very capable. It's got extremely although its armament is basically just main guns, it has smoke, it has radar, it has sonar. And it has all the manoeuvrability of, almost maneuverability of the Fiji. Very capable ship. As you can see, I've got the historical camo for it, which means that not only is it one of my top 5 winningest ships, it's also, one of my favourites. So how I work this out is that because I've kept stats and updated them, I can tell how well I've done when I was first playing compared with the last 6 months. So this top 5 winningest ships is actually looking skewed towards the last few months, so that ships that I originally was learning on, like the York, have an opportunity to make it into the list. The York didn't make it into the list, so it is a lot better than my initial gaming in it. However, it never really made the cut. Now, the Belfast, of course, has one other advantage. If you have the legendary Captain Beatty, the smoke is enhanced, so it has an enhanced cooldown, meaning that you're actually you can be maybe 20 or 30 seconds between smoke uses. And that can actually, in the middle of a firefight game like this, that can mean that you actually have quite a high survivability. It is something that you have to be careful to rely on, particularly recently, seeing as there seems to be some bugs with smoke, which I'm not too upset about. I just need to understand a little bit more how those bugs instantiate themselves. Whoops, it's a bit of a miss there. Number 4 is let's have a look at this ship. It is, when you zoom out, number 4 will be a bit of a surprise. So if I was to ask you to name the top 5, obviously you know the Belfast. Number 4 is the Huanghui, which is the Tier 6 Pan-Asian Premium Cruiser, which is probably, of the light cruisers, the lightest. Now, the problem with this cruiser, the cruiser has a number of disadvantages. It has only 6 guns, and they are relatively low-powered guns. It has a torpedo tube per side. It doesn't have great armor, but what it does have is it has excellent concealment, relatively good speed, and the consumables, the boosters, are fantastic. So this ship gets a torpedo reload, which means that twice in a battle, it's essentially like you've got 2 torpedo tubes per side. It's almost like 2.5. Oops, there he goes, disappeared. Let's see if we can knock him out. Now, the ship doesn't do a great deal of damage on each salvo, but those consumables, the other consumables it's got is smoke. You can see my smoke's on cooldown. Here I am busy defending the centre cap. And there we go. We'll basically keep that side of the island clear. So all I'm doing here is holding the centre cap in the Huanghui, which is actually an excellent ship for doing that, because when it comes time to deal the damage with all those consumables, you can really skew the table in your direction. With all 3 of those deployed at short range, sonar, the smoke and the torpedo reload, you can really, really tilt the table hard in your direction. So, this is a ship that I have in the past used when I needed wins. The Huanghui was one of my go-to ships. It's since been replaced by other ships that are higher up the list. So it's not for everybody. And the thing to take away from the top 5 winningest cruisers is they are very individual. And you'll see that they get even more individual as they go up the list. So some people may be saying, well, I'm going to wait, for my favourite cruiser to appear. You may be waiting a while. and the reason for that is coming up shortly, because let's go on to number 3. So that was number 2, the Huanghui. Number 3, if you can't tell from the picture, number 3 is the Tier 5 US premium cruiser, the Marblehead, which has fantastic camouflage but is otherwise, well, from my perspective, indistinguishable from the Omaha. And I did fairly well in the Omaha. So with the Marblehead, yeah, it has an extremely good win rate. So running through the win rates, the Belfast at 68.79%, the Huanghui at 71.7%, the Marblehead clocks in at 73.33%. A win rate, which is a phenomenal win rate for me because I tend to play a lot of solo games. Yeah, so the Marblehead, well, basically, if you play it like the Omaha doesn't make this list because it's been a long time since I've played it, but it was at the time an extremely effective ship for me. And as you can see, it's got well, it's got lots of guns. It's got it's got torpedoes, which is unusual for an American cruiser. It is very lightly armoured, but it, like most American cruisers, it's got a reasonable turn on it. And yeah, so that makes it an effective ship for, well, it's a bit of a multi-role ship. Whereas the Huanghui is pretty capable when it gets into a tight situation and then you need to sort of rest up for a bit. The Marblehead is something that just basically, yeah, it's a bit more all-purpose. And with those casement-mounted guns, you can see that it's got that flexibility. Anyway, let's go on to number 4. Number 2 will be a shock. My number 2 winningest ship with a 90% win rate is the Tier 5 Russian premium cruiser, the Krasny Krim. Now, to be fair, it's actually hard to work out why this makes the top list. This is not a pleasant ship to play. It does not feel like an overpowered ship. It does not play like an overpowered ship, and you certainly can't carry a game in it. I think one of the reasons that I do so well in it is because I know its limitations and I play to its strengths, which is basically a long-range sort of rotating pillbox. So it has guns mounted all around it. It is effectively the Russian equivalent, Tier 5 equivalent of the American Tier 7 Atlanta, a cruiser, a light cruiser with a whole lot of destroyer guns mounted all around the outside. And as you can see, well, they don't reload that fast, but they've got good Russian guns, good Russian accuracy, and yeah, whichever direction you're facing, there's always guns pointing that direction. So here I am going in reverse. I'll probably have to do something about this cap. Firing against this emerald. So yeah, so the Krasny Krim, yeah, play at range, don't get into any brawls, light lots of fires, and if you ever use your torpedoes, you've done something wrong. In fact, I'd probably say in only 10% of the games, given I've got a 90% win rate, would I ever be in a position to use torpedoes. So the Krasny Krim, it's the Tier 5 Russian cruiser, is the second winningest ship. So the most winningest ship may not be quite the same surprise that the number 2 was. And that is coming up very shortly. So up until this point, they've been very individual, which means that they may not be your winningest ships. If I look to the next 3 winningest ships below the Belfast, they would be the Leander at number 6, the Neptune at number 7, and the Fiji at number 8. Those reflect my enjoyment and practice at playing the British light cruiser line. So here I am. I've decided that survival's a better part of valor. I've done some damage, sunk some enemies, and basically I'm just going to light some fires at long range so I don't get shot to bits. Yeah, so, and that's pretty much how to play the Krasny Krim. Whoops, getting fired at from the other side. That's never any fun. Keep that island between me and that Fuso. Anyway, the number one winningest cruiser I have, well, it's first equal, to be fair. It's just got more games in it. And the number one winningest cruiser is, you probably can't tell it, but you'll be able to tell it now, is the Yubari. Now, the reason for this is that, well, it's a tier 4 ship, which means that the opponents aren't quite as effective. It is a very, very, well, it's a very good little cruiser, and the reasons that it's a good little cruiser are that it's almost a destroyer, really. It's a very small target. It's relatively agile, but not super agile. Not as agile as a destroyer, as you'll be able to tell in a second or two. But what it can do is, yeah, it's got phenomenal long-range torpedoes that just go and go and go. So they're Japanese destroyer torpedoes. They are centerline mounted. So there have been some games where I fired my torpedoes off one side, turned the ship around and realised it's the same torpedo tubes waiting to reload. So it's not like the tier 3 Katori. Someone else got the kill for that. But we are doing a lot of damage. And so what it means is that its guns are sort of okay. They do start a lot of fires. The torpedo angles are shocking, as you can see. They are a real trick to get used to. But once you do get used to them, you know, they're beautiful torpedoes. So here we are. We've got destroyer heading towards our cap. And, well, the Yubari is probably the perfect boat to take on the likes of the Minakaze. Small target for the torpedoes, relatively agile, and I certainly outgun him. And my torpedoes actually aren't too bad compared to his. Admittedly, he's more agile, but then again, you fire them at a bit of a distance and give them something to think about. Unfortunately, they hadn't rotated. He's fired his torpedoes. All I'm going to do here is turn away, let those torpedoes pass, and I've got 40 seconds to play with this guy and put him at the bottom of the ocean. So yeah, so the number one winningest cruiser in my collection is the Yubari, which isn't a surprise. It is actually very much known as a Seal Clubber ship. And if I am in for some wins, the Yubari is certainly a ship to take out to play with. Yeah, and you get a lot of surprise torpedo hits. If you miss your first target, if they're clustered up enough, you might get something on the far side, and that's happened on more than one occasion, which is why that's got that 90% win rate. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that it does have its weaknesses, and I probably don't throw it around as much as I do, like, for example, the Sirius, but still. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching that. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.